Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to use the scroll saw and basically just cut out this hummingbird pattern that we see here. Originally I was going to use the router on maybe recycled pine, and we could have routed out each one of these sections and then painted in between, sanded it down, or poured multicoloured resin. But we're going to leave off the resin today, and the idea is we're going to use a scroll saw and cut out each one of these sections. So we have plenty of sections to cut out, and then we'll stick them down onto a backer, which I'm deciding yet it will either be 5.5mm plywood, or if we want to go a bit thicker we might use the 12mm plywood. So that will be the backer. We will talk about that nearer the time, because we're not going to damage the template itself. Normally on these kind of projects you would use painter's tape, and you would line all your plywood first and then use the spray glue. I can just find it here. Spray glue on and stick your template down. But because I want to use the outer section to draw the finished backer board, I've used carbon paper. Pop that underneath like so. I like to use a biro or a pen. Just drew over the lines, and that has left us with our image that you can see today. So that's all nicely drawn out now. So these are going to be the sections that we're going to cut out. All of these, I've not actually counted them yet, but there seems to be enough, and we just use that one single line as our guideline. We'll cut that piece out, sand it nicely, and then we'll move on to the next one, and so on and so on. And that way we can use our template here, and as we cut each piece out we can just lay it on top until we've completely covered that. And then, like I say, we'll make the backer of the same shape, place this back on again, and go around with the carbon paper and a pen, draw it out our shape, making it a couple of millimeters slightly bigger, and that will let us use that as a backer board to stick all our pieces on. I will count all these before the end of the video, I'm sure. So there's our main top section done already. So all we need to do now is pick our blade. For me, as always, I prefer to use what they call spiral blades. Now spiral blades, the teeth spiral the full length of the blade, and they will cut in any direction. Personally myself, with spirals, the thicker the wood the better. I'd rather cut inch and a half wood than cut this stuff. It just finds it's a bit too fast, and obviously with this being so thin you could cut 3 at the same time. That way you're making 3 hummingbirds at the same time. So that would be my blade of choice. Your standard blades or your pin blades, they have a pin at either end there, look. This will cut this out no problem whatsoever, nothing too complicated. And you also get pinless straight blades. These are very fine. These are what all your professional boys use. I just struggle with those, to be honest. So I'm going to stick with my spiral blades. But unfortunately those, they are pinless, and my scroll saw, an old drapper over in the corner there, only takes pin blades. So for pinless blades I have to use these adapter clamps, and they'll just hook on like so, where the pin would normally just hook over. It's just replaced with the adapter clamp like so. Okay, so we'll set this all up. Just take our time, cut all these out, sand them down, get onto the backer, and then we'll paint it all nicely, multi-colours on them, so plenty of colours. Spray a bit of varnish once we've glued it all down, or before even, and this little project we're heading towards the finishing line. But for now we'll use our Pegas number 5 spiral blade and literally start cutting all these out. Right, so I've gone around the bird just quickly, just take off these scrap sections just to make it a little bit easier to handle. We've got our Pegas number 5 spiral, and with spirals and straight blades they want to feel smooth on the way down, rough on the way up. That way you know your blade's in the right way. We've took the tension up at the back. You've got a nice ping ping sound. So we are ready to cut this out. So we'll just cut each section one at a time, nice and steady, bit of sanding, and then we'll place it onto the original template, and we'll just fill it all up as we go along. Okay, let's start cutting this one out. Right, so we've cut our hummingbird out completely. As I've done each section, I just mark the back with a pencil. It just makes it easier when you come to put it together. And remember, we've got to sand this down yet. You will find with your pegas blades, you get these little fuzzy sections here. If you can just see that, the little fuzzies. It takes seconds to go off like that. We will be sanding this all the way round just to make our cuts just a little bit better. I'm more of a router than a scroller, but we will give it a go, and that's the main thing. And same on all these, we've marked the backs just so we know where the pieces go. So the next stage now, remember we've got to cut the backer out on this yet for it to stick down to. We'll leave that to a little bit later. So I'm just going to go along now, take each section and just sand off those fuzzy sections, and I just want to give it a bit more shaping, get rid of any cuts that maybe aren't spectacular, and just generally just tidy it all up. So we do that next, and then when we come back we'll look at cutting the actual backer out itself. Right, there's our last piece going in, just temporary for now, remember. And they've all fitted in nicely. So we basically sanded all the sides down, took those fluffies off the back, and we've rounded these off slightly. You could obviously work on it a lot more, but that is plenty for me. Now let's find out what we're going to do with the backer. Right, just before we cut the backer out, if you remember at the beginning of the video, this is actually a stained glass pattern, so you would have leading in between each section. So what I've basically done, and I've gone back and forward 2 or 3 times, do we with all the gaps in, as you can see from there, more like a mosaic come stained glass effect, or do we have them all squeezed up like so everything would be all tightened together with basically no spaces in between at all. I prefer the gaps in between. 1, it just makes the project slightly bigger, and 2, once we've painted this backer black, we'll have a nice bit of black showing through each one, just give it that stained glass effect, or like we say, mosaic, if you wanted to paint the background white and have the white showing through like tile fill or whatever it's called, grout. Anyways, so what I did, I basically put them how I wanted those, took my time and got the distance in more or less right all the way around, and then we did the washer technique. Just got a little washer like so. This one actually comes off the end of a sanding drum, and very carefully we placed it there, and I went round, and as I did, I just held each piece in section in place. I went round with the washer like so. I don't want to do it here now because I don't want a double line. But basically, you'd have your pencil in there, followed it up, and then I came over, put my hand on those, and went basically all the way around. And that is just enough to give you a nice little border around the full piece. And the bigger the washer, the wider those sections there, the wider your back plate will be. So that's the before section there with the gaps in. Remember, we could have gone the other way, just had them all fitting snug like so. So you have a couple of options if you want to prefer it that way. But I've gone for that one, so we'll get rid of all that lot now. And there's our backer, all nicely ready to cut out. This is just cheap MDF, this one. I was able to go on that 5mm plywood, but I've looked about and I can't find any. So, bit of recycling. This would have came off back of a wardrobe or something at one time. It's got a bit of a bevel on it, but I'm hoping once we've cut it out, that bevel will go. So back on the scroll saw, Same blade, pegas number 5, and we'll just cut this backer out, and then we'll see what it's like once all the bits are back on. Right, so there's our backer, all nicely cut out. That didn't take a lot of doing. It does cut really nice MDF, but be careful, the dust from MDF can be quite dangerous. So you need a proper mask on, plenty of ventilation. One of the reasons why I don't use it a lot, but for a little small project like this, I think we'll be good to go. Right, so there's our backer. Same with this, even with the MDF. We have our little nodules there, look. But a matter of seconds, we'll go all the way around. Don't know what this backer is. This is some kind of like a plastic coating. I suppose if you sand that down enough, you will sand that away, but it's the back of the piece. It's not going to do us any harm, is it? So, quick tidy up on this one again. And then we'll pop all the bits back on top, see what it looks like, and then we'll decide about the painting side of things. Right, that's the backer nicely sanded down. MDF is really nice to work with, and we've rounded all those edges off. We've lost all those little fuzzies on the back. Now that is ready for painting and applying our little bits to go with it. And we have plenty of those. There was over 40 in the end. I did mention I will count them. So I'm going to just throw these on top here for now. I say throw them on. I will place them on here in position, just to see what it looks like, and then we'll look into the painting side of things. I'll pop these on first. Right, there's our last piece just going on. These are just temporary, remember, just to give you a rough idea of how the spacing is going to work. And so remember, we've got to paint that back section, so all these will have to come off again. I gave it a rough count. There's 43 bits on there, so eventually once we've painted it all, we have all those pieces to stick down and hopefully get those little spaces in between to give it a mosaic effect or stained glass effect. So for the backer piece, good old painter's touch, and I would normally use those to paint these with, but I'm just going to go with acrylic paints today, just mixed down with a bit of water. It is a hummingbird, so we've got plenty of colours to go with it, and we'll see what we've got. And then we'll eventually glue it all down and just spray a nice bit of varnish on it, give it a nice shine, and then we will be heading towards the finishing line. But before that, let's start painting. Right, so I've had a go at trying to paint this with acrylic paint, and the paint's going on fine, and I tried to get a bit too arty-farty, as we say, and the head didn't look too bad, but the rest is just starting to look messy. So I'm going to tidy this up, do away with the artistic side of things, and basically just do nice block colours, which is normally the way I would do things. So look enough, we stopped it when we've only had those few to sort out. The rest of it is still bare wood over here, if I can just grab it quickly. So we still have all those to paint, but I'm just going to do them all nice, solid colours. I gave it a go, but I'm just not feeling it. So we will continue and just do nice, solid colours. I gave it a try. Right, there's all our bits painted up. I've got to be honest with you, I'm just not feeling it on this project at all. I think out of 500 plus, maybe 600 projects I've done, I've only basically discharged 2 projects before I made it towards the finishing line. The colours aren't right on this. I'm not happy with the way it's gone on. To be honest, I was just going to scrap the full thing, but I'll continue with it as if it's an ongoing project, and I might feel the love towards the end, but we'll see. So we've painted all our 40 plus bits, and we've also painted the back of there. Now we're just basically going to stick all this together, placing all those bits onto that backer with some super glue. I'll use 151 and a bit of wood glue we'll throw in between. Normally I spray my varnish on first. I will spray all those and the backer, but on this occasion, because the gap will be so small in between, I'm going to glue it all down first, and then we'll spray some nice varnish on it. And hopefully when these bits get some varnish on, a bit of shine, it might just encourage me more to feel for it. But for now, I'm just completing the video just to show you guys what we were trying to achieve. Right, there's our last piece to go in. So for me, I just like to mix a couple of glues together. No other reason than we have it. Plus also, I do find with this wood glue, it just gives you a couple more seconds to stick it down before the super glue takes over. So we just dab a bit of this on, nice and steady, like so. Basically all over the place, get right to those edges. And that's more than plenty. So the last piece to go in, as I've done this, it has been sticking to my fingers, I've got to be honest. And some, like there, look, you've got to be careful how you're putting this on. So we'll slop that one in there, roughly, get it lined up, stuck to my finger again, here we go. Like I say, you have a couple of seconds to twiddle it about, but we'll take that one as it is. Right, so that's stuck down now. Right, so all you've got to do is we'll go back down to the shed, and we'll spray some nice varnish on this and see what it looks like. And I also made a centerpiece for the eye itself. That was just a cocktail stick, cut the end off, rounded it off, painted it white, and that just gives him a nice eye. Okay, hopefully this will look different again once we get our resin on top. Our varnish on top. Right, so we're back down in the shed. Everything's all nicely stuck down. I like to rest it on a couple of little containers here, just keep it off the dust off the table. Just to show you, I will take this outside and give it the final varnish spray. And we know it's coming. Just 151 today, depends what we've got. I've just gone down and purchased some more today. Gloss varnish, so I've got no preference. These are okay for indoor pieces. Obviously for outdoor projects, you want to be looking at something a bit more superior. But for indoor projects, these will be fine. We're going to do 3 or 4 coats, and hopefully it will darken those pieces down. I do like a nice shine on my finished pieces, remembering to get all the side walls as well. Right, we'll take this outside, and when we come back, it should all be nicely dry, and this little project should be finished. Right, that's it. This little project is finished. Now we give it 3 or 4 coats of that 151 varnish, and you can see from there that just gives you a lovely shine, and that is plenty for indoor projects. That's come out really nice, so we've had no problems with that. So regarding the colour wise and stuff, I'm liking it maybe a little bit more towards the end of the project. Definitely when it went on that back of there, and we can just see those black lines coming through. So it's the multicoloured hummingbird, we're going to call this one. We cut it out on 3.6mm plywood for all these small sections, using a Pegas number 5 spiral blade. Unfortunately, with my old draper saw, I have to use those adapter clamps, and the bottom section was cut out on 5mm, we're going to call it, recycled MDF. You can just see there, and that was actually the back of the piece. I will hang a little hook on here for hanging purposes later. And we painted it with good old acrylic paints for the main colours, and then good old painter's touch just for that black section of the back, for the backer itself, and then a good old spray with 151 clear varnish, and that gives it all nice and shiny. And obviously before that, probably the hardest part was sticking it all down with the super glue and the wood glue there. And that's it, this little project is finished. It came out okay. Regarding the colour wise, I'm still not too sure about this one, but it is what it is, and it's finished now, and I'm sure there's somebody out there who will like this. And we can't say we haven't put plenty of colour into our projects. Thank you very much for watching.